let's jump right in. Hello, everyone. My name is James Spiller. I'm the director of the Master in Real Estate Development Program at Iowa State University. I will be referring to the program as the MRED program from time to time throughout today. So please, when I say MRED, think Master of Real Estate Development. I find it to be a great little shorthand. I'm thrilled to be joined by three Iowa State University MRED panelists today, two of whom are current students and one is a MRED graduate. I'd like to take a minute and let them introduce themselves. Let's begin. Anna, how are you?
Hey, I'm good. How are you?
Just plugging away.
Yes. Do you want me to give a little background on where I'm at? Awesome.
You got it.
All right. So my name is Anna Eldridge, and I live in Minneapolis, Minnesota. I work for Ryan Companies as a national marketing manager for their capital markets group. I'm finishing out the first year of the MRED, and I actually did my undergrad at Iowa State as well. So that's a bit about me.
All right, Soleil. Everyone, Soleil Thomas.
Hi, yes, my name is Soleil Thomas. I am in my second semester of this program. I currently stay here in Ames. I work for Hubble Realty, which is out in West Des Moines as a assistant superintendent. And yeah.
Wonderful. And our MRED graduate, Kyle Donnelly.
Yeah, thanks, James. So my name's Kyle Donnelly. I work at Principal Real Estate Investors, which is part of Principal Financial Group in Des Moines, Iowa, and am an acquisitions manager there and focus on all different kinds of property types. And I was part of the first class to go through the MRED program, so graduated about a year ago, last May.
Awesome. So for those of you who may have hopped on late, we have Anna, Soleil, and Kyle. They'll be piping up and adding color to my fairly straightforward information sets. So I'm going to outline a few things before we get into, I think, the bulk of the conversation. So I will share my screen and we should get underway. Bear with me. Off we go. So a little bit of background, the Master of Real Estate Development degree program is an interdisciplinary professional degree developed by the College of Design and College of Business and offers a blended format of learning with both online and in-person courses. Real estate development has become more complex and dynamic, involving sophisticated networks and collaborations, as well as complicated negotiations with public officials in the regulatory and planning process. Firms often employ teams of professionals to make investment and development decisions, and individuals specialized in such areas as law, finance, architecture, engineering, and construction. But the role of the developer often requires extensive on-the-job training to acquire broad-based knowledge needed in terms of advanced firms' goals and individuals' careers. In our discussions with industry, we find that while many large firms have mechanisms to facilitate this type of learning, it can be costly and time-consuming. Moreover, such in-house training is less available for smaller organizations or sole proprietors, and as an alternative, an MBA-type program to broaden the skill set. However, these do not tend to offer courses reflecting the increasingly complex field of real estate development in all of its capacities. And so Iowa State University's MRED is here to tackle the multidisciplinary aspect of the real estate development field. Today, we will give you an overview of the MRED program, including its design, curriculum, admission requirements, tuition costs, and at the end, we'll have time for a question and answer session. To submit a question, click the chat button and type your question at any point throughout the conversation. We will then answer your questions live at the end of the webinar. The MRED degree provides students with graduate training in real estate, market analysis, business finance, fundamentals of the built environment, urban planning with an emphasis on current trends and innovations. The program will engage with industry to facilitate novel curriculum, guest speakers, and a capstone project to encourage a working relationship between Iowa State faculty, alumni, and professionals within the real estate development and investment industries. So I jumped ahead here, but our agenda is our context of real estate education, our Master of Real Estate Development curriculum, and our application requirements with some question and answers. So with a bit of background, those are our guests for today. A few items to note: the quantity of actions in a real estate development is staggering. The amount of participants, the amount of individual decisions are immense, and wrapping your head around each component of a real estate development project is tough. So as we said, on-job training has been the key solution for real estate education, really in the recent past and beyond. But on-the-job training is really difficult to manage for most companies. So how should real estate development be taught? We believe in training, exclusive access to industry leaders, and practice, generating a concept, a pro forma, and a project pitch. So as a brief side note, it's important you know who I am. My name is James Spiller, and I'm an associate professor of practice and program director for the Master of Real Estate Development program at Iowa State. I am a registered architect in the state of Iowa and own and operate a residential architecture firm based in Des Moines, Iowa. Since 2010, I've practiced at both traditional architecture firms and real estate development firms. I've also taught at Iowa State University in the College of Design and College of Business for over 7 years. So let me tell you a little bit about our backstory. How did we arrive here? Iowa State University stakeholders and alumni expressed interest to develop an Iowa State University real estate course offerings. A task force was formed, and we looked to students, alumni, and industry for ideas. Through rounds of discussions with firms, students, and alumni, we developed the MRED with a multidisciplinary focus: design, planning, investment, finance, and construction. Firms and alumni encouraged us to include courses in law and leadership and negotiation as well. We've learned that firms have an interest in hiring professionals with broad training, and firms are willing to partner with us in delivering content for working students. Most importantly, the majority of working professionals want, and many times need, an online program. Based on this feedback and encouragement, we designed the ISU MRED as an interdisciplinary professional degree developed by the College of Design and College of Business, coordinating with faculty from engineering. The MRED was born. We have students who've attended our program who live in Iowa, South Dakota, Minnesota, Nebraska, Wisconsin, Indiana, California, Florida, Texas, and Michigan. The student's average age is 30 years old and has an undergraduate GPA of 3.04. Our average student has 5 years of work experience, some with 2 internships just coming out of undergraduate school, some with over 25 years of professional experience. 40% of our students are women. And with that, it is quite important to hear from our students themselves. So I'd like to turn to our panelists and hear from the insiders. In your time at Iowa State University's MRED program, which courses partnered well with your professional experiences? I'd like to begin with Anna.
Hey, yes. I don't even know where to begin. I feel like they've actually paired really, really well with the professional work that I've been doing. And I'll talk about a little bit later how MRED has actually kind of helped me shift my career, even since starting just a semester ago. But I currently support the finance, essentially, department at Ryan, and I've been really heavy in the 2 finance courses, 574 and 572, the past 2 semesters, and it has been such an immense help to even just be a part of the conversation. You know, what are we trying to advertise to our banks and lenders and our investors? Why is this a good deal? You know, why should they choose to invest in our property? And just understanding the financial metrics, feeling comfortable in Excel and in the pro forma itself that we're working in every day. Those are all skills that I have been exposed to through the MRED program that would have been so foreign to me without it. So it's been such an immense help, and really just like really made it a seamless transition for me into my new job at Ryan. Yeah, so that's what I'll say there.
Wonderful, wonderful. Kyle, do you have any insights as to which courses partnered well with your professional work, as you had a bit more background in finance compared perhaps to some of the others on the call?
Yeah, sure. And I'm not sure if my video is going to work right here, but I think my audio is working. But yeah, I think my day-to-day is very similar and in line with some of the investments and finance courses within the program. So those were a great bolster to kind of my base of what I do every day, and really help kind of expand on that. So those were all extremely beneficial and getting into the weeds of everything else. And then what was really most beneficial though to me was kind of the balance of that, things I don't get as heavily involved in day to day. So the development side and the construction courses. So being able to go out and buy existing buildings, I'm not involved day to day on the construction side, but understanding that better positions me, well in understanding that process, especially if we're buying new buildings or maybe a building that's under construction. So having that side of things has definitely benefited me so far in my career since I've gone through the program. And then the other thing to point out, the real estate law class is, might sound boring to some, but my job is heavy transaction based, so a lot of negotiations, and that involves, utilizing lawyers, but having that base knowledge and really understanding some of the kind of core principles to help guide those negotiations without having, to call up a lawyer all the time, I think is valuable in a lot of different real estate aspects for sure.
And Soleil, you are in the field at construction sites, so perhaps you'll balance out Kyle's point of view. What courses have really partnered with your professional efforts?
For me, one class that stood out was our civil engineer course, which basically focused on special topics in construction engineer, as well as like management, which is like planning and scheduling. So for me in my job, I'm an assistant superintendent. So I actually work a lot with like planning and scheduling and making sure things flow smoothly for our houses. I'm actually currently sitting in one right now, which is why you might see some tape on the wall. But that class just kind of like helped with like plan sites and stuff. I feel like that's one area I lacked in. So learning how to read plan sites and go about that. One class that stood out to me this semester is my financial courses. I don't really work as much in financial courses, but I work a lot with like numbers and as far as like ordering materials and stuff. So that part is very helpful. And as far as just like me being able to relate back to the people on our sales team, I kind of have that insight. So that helps a lot.
Awesome. I'd like to pivot and take a look at the curriculum for just a minute. Or sorry, I'd like to, I said curriculum, I meant students. So as you've already heard from our three panelists, we have a good variety of different folks entering our program. We have entry to mid-level professionals. The majority of our students have been 2 to 7 years of working experience. We've had small business owners or sole proprietors. We've also had high-performing recent undergraduate students. As I've mentioned before, we've had students return to school after more than 3 decades out in the field. So great variety. Our students are also those seeking hard skills necessary to generate, analyze, pitch, and manage a real estate deal from start to finish, and those seeking soft skills for leadership careers in real estate industries. Some of our students entering the program have already had job titles as follows. Others have applied from other careers as well. And some, as I said previously, have been undergraduate students, perhaps only with a few semesters of internship between junior, senior, maybe after graduation, et cetera. So we have students coming into the program from either professions or different corners of the industry. The MRED is really built for personal advancement, 100% employment for all of our current students and alumni. It's a remarkable statistic. Every single student in our program is employed, and every graduate is also employed. That includes some self-employed persons. We, as a curriculum, develop critical skills for real estate development. I'll touch a little bit more on that in a little bit. We've also adjusted our program so that you can customize the curriculum to your professional expertise and needs, should you have a specific or specialized area of knowledge already. You can complete the MRED degree in 5 semesters. You can increase your earning power over your lifetime career, build your network with award-winning leaders in the real estate industry nationwide throughout the Midwest and, of course, across Iowa. And you can grow with a mentor who will help you navigate the industry. The curriculum itself is 33 course credits, 33 credit hours with 11 courses. That's 6 core courses and 5 elective courses, where each course is 3 credits. We have a flexible schedule. If you're taking kind of I'm going to say the heaviest course load, you would be taking approximately 2 courses per semester, which you would finish just around 21 months. Kyle Donnelly, who's on the call, can speak to that. We also have some students who've gotten promotions, had babies, gotten busy, moved, who've adjusted to 1 course per semester. And if you did that every semester, that would amount to just under 5 years. But realistically, most students are moving between 2 courses and 1 course per semester, depending on workloads. We also have optional certificates, which could be taken as a part of the elective coursework, which would include certificates such as finance, entrepreneurship, construction management. There are others at Iowa State University. Most certificate programs may have additional admissions requirements, but again, those can be utilized as part of our elective coursework. The core courses, so something that Kyle spoke about earlier in terms of some of the courses he really leveraged. The core courses include real estate market analysis, real estate finance, real estate investments, real estate development, sustainable community development, and the capstone. So these are the key ingredients to successful track in our program. And we also have elective courses, which include architecture and sustainable design, construction basics, building systems and project management, historic preservation, investments, financial valuation and corporate financial decisions, leadership and conflict resolution, and real estate law. There are additional electives available through either certificate programs or other graduate online coursework. Of course, if you live in Ames or are capable of taking coursework by coming to Central Iowa, you could take in-person elective coursework, but that's not realistic for most of our students. So with that said, and outlining, I think, some of our key course offerings, again, I'd like to hear from some of our students who've had to negotiate what I'm going to call the difference between our online courses, and we have 2 courses with in-person. Those 2 courses with in-person requirements are real estate market analysis, typically offered your first summer, and our capstone, which is the culminating experience of the student's career at Iowa State MRED. So let's start with Anna. Anna, could you speak about your experience in the real estate market analysis coursework?
Yeah, so that was my very first class as a part of the NRED program. It was in person for 1 full week and on the Ames campus, and it was really great to have that be the start of my program. It was really great to get to meet people in person. Tracy, our professor, was awesome at just moving us through like bulk content, because you're really going through a semester's worth of information in a week. And she made it really practical and easy for us to kind of like get our hands on some building blocks concepts that were going to take us through the rest of the program. And then I think the other thing, so I live in Minneapolis, so I had to come down to be in person for that 1 week. But it was just great to meet some of the other students and get the opportunity to make connections going into the rest of the school year. I met a couple people who I'm still in contact with, and actually 1 person is in my current group in my finance class. So we've been able to strike up a little bit of a friendship outside of just MRED classes, and I can kind of ask him questions and pick his brain on certain things. Yeah, and then I would say the last thing too about being the in-person class in the summertime was that there were other events happening with the MRED community that week. So we got to tour a property in Des Moines and see it in person and ask questions to the developer. And we went to another office site, Hunziker, and got to meet with some of their development staff. So there were also other networking opportunities available. And again, it was just a great way to kick off the program. And the class was awesome. I could say more. There was the CCIM workshop that was so cool. And it was just a great way to get started. So yeah.
Wonderful. Kyle, I know that you are the only one on this call who has gone through the capstone project. Could you outline a little bit about the capstone experience, the project that you worked on and developed, and maybe some of your other favorite moments from that in-person course?
Sure, yeah. So we could kind of develop a plan from a development standpoint, redevelopment standpoint for our capstone project. And we were split up into groups. Our group specifically was a group of 3, which was actually one of the better parts in my opinion, or one of the most positive experience was just the team, because there is a lot of different people in the cohort or in your class that are going through the project with all kinds of different backgrounds. So for instance, my group consisted, myself at a large institution doing investments, and then we had a city planner for the city of Des Moines, and then we had somebody who worked for a property manager who was focused in Des Moines doing a lot of different property types, but during the course of our work had actually taken a job in Atlanta for property management. So just a lot of different perspectives coming into the project. So we ended up choosing to redevelop a mall, Merle Hay Mall in Des Moines, just kind of sticking with the theme of there's too much retail across the U.S. and some of it is a little bit underutilized. So we went through a number of, iterations trying to figure out what that best plan looked like. And, some things we agreed on, some things we didn't. And that was kind of the beauty of the project. It's just, ultimately coming to a consensus of what made the most sense. So we ended up tearing down some of the retail, putting in some multifamily, over a couple different phases. And so it really is a team effort, and a little bit different from a team effort at work where, you're working with those individuals every day. So it just gives you a different perspective on how to look at opportunities. So it was a good experience.
Wonderful. And Soleil, you're a first-year student, and I have to ask, so far, what has made the program worth the time and investment?
For me, I say the biggest factor is flexibility. I take a total of 9 credits each semester. I also play a sport. So just having that flexibility, I also travel a lot, I feel like helps a lot that you probably won't get from most programs. Most of my classes are online. I actually work currently, so that's work, practice, and school. The teachers are very flexible. They're willing to take the time out their day to assist with anything. Even James is always available, one email away. So I feel like the biggest thing for me was flexibility.
I think turning the conversation a little bit to some of the topics, within real estate, it's so broad. There's so many possible avenues to work in, whether it's on design or engineering or finance. I think some of the questions that I have that I think many of the people on this call would ask is for each of you. And let's start with Soleil again. Could you speak to some of the topics kind of within the program which you're actively pursuing that that could help advance your career? Because everybody's in a unique scenario, and so I think understanding how an individual moves through this program and in partnership with their kind of professional career, how are you executing within that?
So like I said, I work mainly in construction, but I've been taking a lot of like investments and financial classes. So I kind of like have that higher up on a lot of my colleagues that most don't have. And then I taking the civil engineer course, which kind of like took me very far. A lot of people in my position aren't really familiar with the planning and scheduling. So I kind of have that higher up on other people around me. So I feel like that was one thing that stood out that helped me in this program.
Anna, how have you adjusted your career plans based on your experience in this program?
Yeah, so, I think when I was looking at this program, I was really hoping to kind of pivot my career into real estate. I was at the time doing marketing for a civil engineering company, which I enjoyed. They did great work, but I had interned, doing property management in college, and I was just wanting to get back to the real estate world and finding a kind of a hard time finding a fit in correlating my experience to real estate specifically. So I joined the program last fall and actually found a marketing position at Ryan Companies for their financing team. So I was super excited, applied, and when I was interviewing, they were like, well, do you know what cap rate is? Do you know what debt yield is? And, DSCR, and kind of asking me some of the, just financial terms that they use to make decisions. And I did. I was able to kind of provide answers. I was able to provide insight. And I think that really impressed them. It set me way apart from any other, marketer, and really showed that I could be an asset to their team right now. And as I continue to learn and grow in just my knowledge of real estate and being able to differentiate, what offerings and unique proposition Ryan is developing and, putting out in the marketplace compared to others. So they have been super supportive. They know that I also have, dreams of doing development and other things beyond marketing outside of, once I get through my program and continue to learn. So generally it's been, I wouldn't have had this career opportunity without the MRED. And I also think it's setting me up for future success down the line. People will be able to see that I've had this background, and I'm able to have conversations with people that I probably wouldn't have had before having this knowledge base. And it's kind of set me up for future success too at Ryan or wherever else.
And Kyle, you're the lone kind of program graduate in the room. So could you speak about how you've been able to leverage your MRED degree and experience network and how to turn that into greater success for yourself in the marketplace?
Sure, yeah, I'm at a little bit of a unique situation relative to some others in the fact that we're all based in Des Moines, but then we cover other markets outside of Iowa. So, for instance, cover Texas and California. But the program was really beneficial for me for a couple of reasons. One, building a lot of local relationships. So I'm not as actively involved in the local real estate market, but I do want to get to know the local market better, which a lot of my classmates were involved in. Not that you have to be local. And then, I would like to at some point, if I can participate in some function at a local level from a real estate standpoint. But that has helped tremendously grow relationships and start to build those relationships still, talk to and see people that I graduated with. And then two, just on the professional side of things, as I kind of talked about, focus on existing investments. Our firm also does development, but I haven't been close to. So, my ability to opine on those projects, I get a lot more trust out of folks when I do weigh in on those now, just given some of my background and history through the program and going forward too. I think, it has just set me up well. I wish I could say as I got the degree, there was a bonus or a promotion that came right away, but there definitely has been an acknowledgement that, that program has helped me here at work for sure.
Wonderful. So as I've shown, the curriculum, our application requirements, as I think Soleil already mentioned, flexibility and I'm going to say adjusting our program to real problems for working professionals. Part of that includes our application requirements. This is a simple application. It's online. All you need is a resume, personal statement, 2 references. You do need an undergraduate degree, and you would need transcripts from all completed degrees. And there's no GMAT or GRE. As many know, real estate professionals have various backgrounds. brokers are the movers and shakers, and we've got attorneys, we've got design professionals, everybody's coming from different corners of the industry. And as such, this simplest application requirement provides access for all and is less, I'm going to say, exclusive to one particular corner of the market compared to the other. It's important to note that in your application, your statement, your personal statement or statement of purpose is in many ways one of the most important ingredients. It's really important for the admissions committee to understand who you are, what your background is, but more importantly, where you see your skill set moving into the real estate industry. You don't have to know for certain, as Anna already pointed out. She had an inkling, but really wasn't sure where that landing spot might be. So articulating what your goals are, at least what is known, is really important in our application process. Here's some fun imagery just for the giggles. Really, we're at the end of our visual presentation. I would like to at least acknowledge a few questions that I anticipate some people asking, and then we'll shift into the Q&A with our panelists. So number one, most people may ask themselves or ask me, when are applications due? Applications, we have rolling admissions, but because of administrative timelines and turnarounds, if you would like to start in a fall semester, you would have to apply by July 1st. If you would like to begin in a spring semester, you would need to apply by November 1st of that year. And if you wanted to start in summer, you would need to apply by May 1st of that year. Some have asked, is there a minimum GPA requirement or is there a GPA requirement in general? The GPA, it is, I would say, acknowledge that having a 3.0 GPA or higher is very good. Below a 3.0 GPA does require a review by the graduate college. But I would say it's important to know that it is only one component of an application. A lower GPA than 3 is not by any means pushed out of consideration. Again, it's really important for us to understand the entirety of a person's situation, and every situation is different. So do not think of that number as sacred. An ideal applicant would demonstrate their abilities as a student of the real estate industry, whether that's in the classroom, through work experience, or from entrepreneurial efforts. And even if you don't work in the real estate industry today, that's okay. We understand that some people are pivoting from one industry to another. And frankly, folks from other backgrounds oftentimes can see our industry with clearer eyes than we can. So understand that we're aware of the varying nature of education, and we love people with different perspectives. So with that said, I'm going to, let's see here, stop my screen sharing. We'll jump into some of the questions, and here we go. All right, so we have a question from Jonathan K. As a soon-to-be Bachelor of Architecture graduate, I'm at a crossroads for pursuing design versus pivoting to an MBA track or something like the MRED. After experience as an intern with shadowships with firms related to the Midwest design construction background, I'm finding I have more control of the final process, control that would come with project development or the ability to better understand the business aspects. What are the main variances between an MBA versus MRED program? So first of all, thanks, Jonathan, for the background. It sounds like you've already had some experience in the industry. So I think one of the key differences between an MBA and MRED is an MBA is more focused on business at large and very rarely has dedicated coursework within the real estate program or within the real estate industry. Most programs that have an MBA or even present part of a real estate study within an MBA generally have only 9 credits that are dedicated to real estate study. In our case, all 33 electives are expected to contribute to a better understanding of real estate development. in a variety of different subject matters. So hopefully I've answered your question, but very simply put, the MBA, the Masters of Business Administration, is going to introduce and ask students to become experts in administering business. And I don't mean that sarcastically. I mean, that's what it's there for. And within that, it's generally business at large. So that way you're prepared to work in a variety of different industries or business settings. Whereas Master of Real Estate Development will really strictly prepare you for a real estate career and different components or portions within the real estate industry. Another question is, does this program allow for completion on a shorter timeline? In simple terms, yes, it's possible you could complete the program within 15 months if you are taking really 3 courses per semester. Soleil has been taking 3 courses per semester. She appears to be on track for that early completion. It is possible, but there are, as I've mentioned before, core courses that must be taken. So it really has to do with your ability to take those core coursework in sequence. Soleil, did you want to say anything about that?
Yes, so basically, technically, I'll be on track to finish in December. The only course that I have to complete is just my capstone course, which is a week-long course in May. So essentially, I'll be completed halfway in December, so I can apply for a full-time job and kind of like move on from there, and then return in May to complete that capstone course for the week.
So in that instance, yeah, that would be 15 months. She would be done with 30 credits out of 33. So hopefully that answers your question, Jonathan. We also have a question about what type of training is included to empower students with the ability to form quality teams for effective project development. Oh boy, that is a tough question. I would say in simple terms, it's impossible to appropriately, I'm going to say, imitate real world circumstances. And I might ask Kyle or Anna to speak about this in their own context. But trying to imitate the amount of businesses or entities that touch a particular development project is innumerable in some instances. Even with a single family house, you're looking at, somewhere between 10 to 15 different companies are participating in the construction of that house. And so my point would be, it's very difficult for us to imitate and train a particular, I'm going to say, team-based solution for project development. It's a very complicated method to do that or imitate it. However, there are multiple case studies that are reviewed in coursework that evaluate how certain context or project solutions were arrived at with different team compositions. So again, I don't know if I've answered your question directly, but maybe I'll ask our panelists, what type of training is included to empower our students for effective project development? Anyone?
I can jump in quick.
Oh, go ahead, Kyle.
Go ahead.
No, you go.
Thanks. Yeah, I think you answered it well, James. I think, there's the academic approach in the classroom of kind of segmenting each piece of that and kind of walking through how, the different trades or the different, phases of a development fit in with each other. It is very difficult, obviously, to fully imitate it, like James said. So I think there's that academic approach of understanding what the process should look like and how that works. And then, there's a practical application, I would say, or kind of practical thought process that's more discussion based of running through different scenarios of what happens and how do you approach it. And the case studies are a great example of running through that. But go ahead, Anna.
No, I think that's perfect. I would just say too, I don't know, you're exposed to all different aspects of a project. So you might leave this program knowing what your strengths are and what you might need help with, and be able to formulate teams in that way, being able to plug in the right people based on the information that you've already learned. You're exposed to everything. So you kind of get a feel for, who should I be bringing in? Maybe what are my weaknesses? and that'll help you kind of zero in on what team members you need. So.
And there's one last question in the chat. Oh, this one's targeting me. So, all right. James, as a practicing architect developer, can you speak to how this type of program knowledge affects both your firm's personal project development and ability to serve commercial clients more effectively? I think it's twofold. Number one, as I am an architect, and when working with a client, I am far more sensitive to budgeting and timeline than before I really started to engage with real estate development. And the reason I say that is working with any type of client, whether that client is a commercial client or if it's a residential client, the number one question that those clients ask, towards the end of the conversation, the first meeting or so, is, how much do you think this is going to cost me? That's kind of part one. Part two is, how long do you think this might take? And looking for guidance, really having to deal with the entirety of the project. When I say that, I don't mean that that's restricted to just design to beginning construction or design until completion of construction, but really understanding the entirety of a project's lifespan, which can include really the first time you have an idea. So, right, the first time you say, wow, I wish that corner that I walk by that's always empty had, my favorite restaurant. And maybe you know the person who owns that restaurant and you go and ask them. The point is that point of origin of an idea is the starting point of the project. And then once it arrives, I'm going to say at the desk of a design professional, generally there's been more thought by the owner, which has to do with finance, and it has to do with time, and it has to do with what the end goals are and what the true parameters are. So how does this type of information affect my ability as a practicing architect? I think it makes my analysis of a project stronger for asking questions that relate to really what I'm going to say directly impacts an owner's problems through the planning portion, also impacts the owner's problems through the construction portion, but also impacts the owner for the lifespan of that building. And that's the part that's really hard to understand until you've seen buildings in management. Kyle on this call already mentioned that he deals with existing buildings and purchasing them as assets. And the ongoing maintenance of a property is it's a far bigger chunk of that project's lifespan than the architect's dreaming or the contractor's constructing of it. So understanding the full project lifespan or possible lifespan helps sharpen the types of questions that, and I'm not just going to limit it to design professionals, but engineers, attorneys, really anybody who's participating in the ecosystem. If they're asking questions that are evaluating the problem holistically, it helps answer the problems that are very, I'm going to say, area specific. So for example, Anna is a marketer. She's trying to lease a space or sell a property, and there are very tight constraints on what type of outcome she's looking for, but understanding the holistic problem set is going to make her job easier and far more effective, if I had to guess. And I think just at large, your question is less so about me and my circumstance, but more so about, as someone who's a working professional, how does a holistic body of knowledge about real estate industry kind of drive that individual to be better at what they already know, or kind of their area of knowledge. And so I might hit pause and kind of make this the last round of questions to the group, to Anna, Soleil, and Kyle, is, how do you take knowing or being able to see the bigger, broader landscape of real estate, and taking that, how do you put it back into practice day to day in your line of work? Because each of you have such varying efforts on a daily basis. So I don't know if somebody wants to take that first.
I can go first. I feel like it's knowing what all kind of like goes into like one single project, and just like knowing how like we all truly like work together, like marketing, and how that relates over to like the construction aspect, and how like things can change so quickly, and just kind of like understanding that like every single project won't work the same as like the last project, and vice versa. like we can go into a meeting and something changes instantly, or like something as far as like the finance part once on the homeowner changes how we go into their housing, or like how they change like the simplest things like as a light fixture or something like that. So it's just like knowing how everything kind of like works and how everything changes so fast in this industry, and just having like that background and at least some form of knowledge that of like financial like marketing, knowing like that happens. So it's just like when you understand other people's roles a little bit, it kind of like makes it a little bit easier to work with one another, is like the biggest thing that I've noticed.
Yeah, I agree. And I would say that a building's life cycle, like while it's different, for certain assets, are typically the same. Like you're developing, you're constructing, you're managing, selling. So having just a knowledge of, the process that the building is going to go through is so helpful. Even like the construction engineering class we took with scheduling and estimating, that was so enlightening for me. I had no idea like how much time and planning and scheduling goes into each of those, properties. And so now when they're like, we need to get this building sold by this date, or we need to close our loan by, June 1st, so that we can put a shovel in the ground by this time, so we can start seeing revenue by August. And if we don't, then this project doesn't make sense for us financially. It's like every single element is tied together. So that makes my job more relevant. Like I need to get this sold in the next month, or it's not feasible. So I mean, everybody kind of has to work together to make every property a reality. And I think that this kind of gives you that exposure to the whole cycle.
Yeah, and my view is pretty similar to Anna. We're always taking a look at, we have clients who will do development and who will do acquisitions of existing properties. And so it's a relative value assessment. And, I know what it costs to buy this existing building today, and it's really helped through this program to better understand, well, if we found a piece of dirt, how long would it actually take us, to build a building, and what would it cost? And there's so many problems today from a supply chain standpoint that make that more difficult, that I've got a new appreciation for. Is it, we talked about the pricing and labor and working through all of those aspects. So it's really given me a holistic view of comparing the two as well, of what's a better investment today, do I think, and what am I, getting paid for? What's the better return for us today? And there's a ton of different aspects that go into both sides of it. But having that better perspective from the program has been really helpful.
Wonderful. It is 12:52 Central Standard Time. So wonder if there are any more questions from the group. We've had some through the chat. We have a few on the phone call. If anybody would like to ask a question verbally, please, now's the window. Otherwise, hold your peace. A good 5-second count. All right. I don't see any additional questions, so I would just say to our group of panelists, any other thoughts? It's kind of last call for outlining any thoughts you've had, or maybe the best way to say it would be, if you were sitting on the other side of this phone call, what do you wish you would have known?
I don't have anything I wish I would have. Go ahead.
Okay, you go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. Nothing comes to mind as I wish I would have known. I would say, and maybe to answer one of Jonathan's questions from my perspective, I was trying to balance the MBA versus MRED type, which route did I want to go? I know, working in the career now, I think prior to starting, I'd been in real estate for 5 or 6 years. I knew I wanted to stay in real estate. So the passion's there for me to stay. And that's why I wanted to kind of narrow my focus and go for that program. And I think for me personally, that was the right choice to make. So the MBA can just be a little bit more general. And I think if you do have a genuine desire to be in real estate or have a passion for it today, then I do think it's a good program. Sorry, Anna, go ahead.
No, I agree. I think, back to the MBA MRED question, I have a friend going through the University of Iowa, MBA program at the same time that I'm going through this program. She's also in real estate investments at Principal, Kyle, so that's kind of funny. But, you know, I'm telling her about some of the stuff that we're doing, like looking at case studies and evaluating financial feasibility, and they're not talking about anything really that's real estate related. So I would say, again, if you know you want to be in real estate, like this is the move, because you're getting exposed to so many other topics that you probably wouldn't in a different MBA program.
For me, I would say mainly because I went straight out of undergrad into this program. But I've always known I wanted to go into real estate, but I think this program has helped me know what part of real estate that I wanted to like go into more specifically as far as like my career. Like I'm sure that I want to go into like project management, construction management, as far as like the development side, and not more sort towards like the financing or like investment part. So I feel like that is one thing that this program has helped me out with.
Kim just included in the chat box that we did receive one email question. It sounds like they're having issues with the chat. So I'll just read the question out loud. This is directed at me again. Oh man. When James has to make real estate decisions, does he make the decision as an architect who's more concerned about the built environment, or would it be a more numbers-based decision like a developer? That's my dilemma as an aspiring real estate developer. Again, without making it too specific, I'm going to say to me or my circumstance, I think that most people who are entering our program or affiliated like myself, who are in a service portion of the real estate industry. I'm an architect. I'm a service provider for developers. Much like, again, a contractor is a service provider for a developer, or a marketer can be a service provider. I think in broad strokes that a service provider working for a real estate development company, investor, firm, so on and so forth, the service provider's job is to balance the specificity of their knowledge and all that that entails, and to balance it against the top parameters or constraints of the development itself, of that project and that project's success. There are many things that can impact or affect decision-making. And so to be specific to your question, when I am evaluating a project for a client, I'm assessing it as an architect, but I'm assessing it as an architect because, again, that's what I'm being contracted to do. I'm there to provide architectural services, but I'm evaluating it also from the point of view of what is the holistic context of the decision-making for this company or this individual, their financial standing, their timelines, their deliverables. What are the other things, again, that a developer sees and considers that perhaps an architect is not? And these are the types of questions that I have found to be very fruitful for my work. And I don't doubt that if you kind of delete the word architecture out of my comments right here, that Anna, Kyle, and Soleil would speak similarly from their perspective, you know, for marketing or construction or financing, is that they're evaluating that development with a lens to their knowledge base, but they're also asking questions that help pin down how their individual participation contributes to a much broader success for the project. I hope that answers your question, our mystery question person. Hopefully that answers. And otherwise, it is 12:58. We have gobbled up an hour. Thank you to all of you who have called in today. And thank you, very special thank you to all of our contributors and panelists. Thank you, Kyle. Thank you, Anna. Thank you, Soleil. Thanks to Kim in the background. She's doing all the clicking in the background that we can't see. So without, I think, any further comments, thank you so much for joining us. If you have any questions, please reach out to Kim or myself directly. My email is jspiller@iastate.edu. Otherwise, thank you for joining us, and we look forward to meeting you. Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks, everybody.
Thank you.